Hey YouTube, I'm Ryan, or Sergeant Indy if you're more familiar with my online handles, and this is the game I've been working on for a while. It's got no project name yet. I know people tend to latch onto the first thing, like when they see art or GIFs of a game or videos of a game. They're like, "Oh, this is that," and they stick with that forever. Like some of the Fara developers, like it was first launched as Far Away. Like, oh yeah, people still call it Far Away. So I still don't have a game project name because I need to talk to a copyright lawyer. There's a couple of names I really like, but I really should talk to somebody before I decide on anything concrete. Trying to get in contact with somebody now. We'll see what happens. So right out the gate, this is GameMaker 2. And this has been my project for the last week and a half, is just taking what I had, trying to cram it into GameMaker 2, because GameMaker 2 can hypothetically go to Switch, and I'm not sure if I'm going to go to Switch eventually, but, you know, I would like to have that option if it does turn out to be a good idea. So here we are in GameMaker 2. So that's been most of what I've been dealing with lately, is trying to figure out what's up with GameMaker 2 and getting everything on board. Let's just get things started. This is the second time I tried to record this video. The first time I was just a rambling lunatic, so I've actually got like a bunch of talking points written down on a piece of paper. That's not as organic, but whatever. Okay, so down here in the corner, this is just debug code coming out, just stuff for me to keep track of if something goes wrong. There's also some debug information if I mouse over the map. Whatever. So first off, speaking of copyright, right? This is my first version of this game that has had no copyrighted content in it. Very big thanks to Vlambert and the Nuclear Throne guys, because that's what I use to prototype every game I ever prototype ever, is because I love their sprites. They've got a lot of charm. They're very easy for me to work with and animate. And these are obviously done in a Nuclear Throne style because I want something relatively simplistic like that. These sprites were put together for me by Marco Vale, who is very talented. He knocked every sprite he put together, all these dudes, in, gosh, like 4 days or something, for a very reasonable price, and I'm very happy with them. I think like the guns should probably be a little bolder and stand out a little better against the dudes, but you know, he didn't really know what he was dealing with when he took the job, and I didn't really know how best to explain what we were dealing with. So, you know, he did great given what I gave him to work on. These are still placeholders. I mean, probably when we're in like full production, I'll eventually kick it up into like a more finalized version of these sprites or whatever. So, what is this? This is it is like a speed chess version of XCOM, right? So, there'll be a bunch of maps that are bigger than this, and you will go and you'll fight aliens on those maps, and that's pretty self-explanatory, I guess, for a speed chess version of XCOM. The hard part is, if you'll notice, you don't control like your whole team at a time. Everybody gets one turn at a time, right? So when it's your dude's turn, you will have like 12 seconds to figure out what's the best move I can do with this guy. And if you run out of time, you lose your turn. The little bars that pop up over people's heads from time to time, that's my new initiative system. I used to just do like a weird Dungeons and Dragons initiative where when everybody entered the scene, they would just roll a number and then go into a big list, and they would act in accordance to those numbers. I wanted something a bit more flexible than that, so everybody has like an old school Final Fantasy style initiative system. So the red bar that pops up over everybody's head, oh, there we go. That's an error. Interesting. Okay, I'll have to get to the bottom of that. Anyway, so the red bar that pops up over people's heads is your hit points, and the white bar that fills up, that's how much initiative you have. You have an initiative bar that goes from 0 to 100, and you have an initiative value that determines how quickly that bar fills up. So, what this is right now and we'll get back to the initiative thing in just a bit. But what this is right now is that this is just an arena. This is just a small place where I can put 2 teams of AI against each other, and I can have them shoot at each other and bump into each other until one side is dead. And all this is allowing me to do is to go through and tweak and fine-tune my AI to get it moving and working how I want it to work. So, just a small VAP. I'm tweaking values in this map. All the soldiers, which are currently blue guys, look like they're wearing like ski masks. They all the ones with the SMGs and the that bad guy with the big pointy nose, they're flankers, so they behave a little differently than everybody else. Like, for instance, a typical AI behavior is they look for flanking shots. And if they don't find a flanking shot, then they go, okay, well, then what's the best shot I can take? And they'll move there and they'll take that. All of these flankers, the guys with the pointy noses and the soldiers with SMGs, what they'll do instead of that is go, okay, can I move to a flank that it's out of bounds for me to move and shoot, but is there a flank I can move to where I can threaten a flank, right? Like, so if he doesn't move or do something about this, then I'll have a flank shot next round, because it breaks up the enemy's lines and it forces them to take defensive actions, really. To like okay, I was just going to stand here behind this green thing forever, but now there's a dude, so oh crap, I better run. Just that kind of stuff. Currently, there aren't any defensive actions in the game. Well, defensive or supportive actions. So, like, hypothetically, you should be able to, like, duck down behind cover, to, like, hunker down and make yourself harder to shoot. And also, like Overwatch, like, okay, if any of the bad guys move and I see them move, I'll shoot at them. Or, like, suppression, where I'm going to cover this area with bullets, and if anybody in that area moves or shoots, I'm going to shoot them. That kind of stuff. It's currently not in the game. It was in the game. I did a very poor job of it. Like I said, I'm recoding my AI from scratch. That's the whole point of this, is just to make sure the AI is good. And so all of that stuff is probably on the docket for next week. But so I bring these defensive and supportive actions up because, like that guy, he just moved, although he actually got a shot. He got a shot because he used like a run and gun style ability that lets him move his full movement range and still take a shot. But if any of these guys move, they don't take a shot, and they just sort of end up on somebody's flank, they need to be able to put out like a tag to everybody else in their team, like, hey, I'm on this guy's flank. If you guys overwatch him or suppress him, I guarantee he's going to move, and you can help me out by doing that. I'll help keep him pinned down. That's all stuff that's going to happen next week. But this right here, just guys moving around and shooting each other, this is a very good first step for me, like proof of concept, like, hey, all of my stuff is working, and it is working really good. That worm guy who just moved up, I'm just going to go ahead and circle him. This guy right here, that's the first melee enemy I've ever coded for this game that I didn't hate, so we're doing pretty good. He's also, he's supposed to be poisonous, too, but he's currently not poisonous. Yeah, let's get back to, gosh, I made a little list of things to talk about, and I've just been all over the place anyway. So these reaction shots, like Overwatch, suppression, the stuff I'm going to be working on next week. The problem with these kinds of games is that the optimal move is to do nothing. The optimal move is like, I'm just going to stand here, I'm going to put my guys on Overwatch, and then when the aliens come to me, I'll get the first shot. So even if it's not at good accuracy, right? Like, even if like Overwatch accuracy is only like 70% what my normal shot percentage would be, just because I get the first shot. So if 4 bad guys come to me and I kill even just one of them, I now have the advantage over just fighting 4 guys. So that's the optimal move, and every game like this has been working out, okay, how do I fix that? How do I make it so that the player has to go do stuff rather than just playing defensively all the time? And we've all sort of come across different solutions to this problem. XCOM 2 has put these really intense, like, round counters in place. We're like, okay, you only have 12 rounds to beat this level, period. You better move. That kind of thing. Phoenix Point is doing this weird willpower system where, you know, like, your guys have 4 willpower, and every time you put them on Overwatch, they lose a point of willpower. And every time they kill a guy, they gain a point of willpower. And there's other stuff linked to willpower, too. This isn't just it. And that seems like an interesting way to go, I think. I don't know. What I'm doing is, back to the initiative bars you see pop up, right? Is... okay, so those bars only come up when it's nobody's turn, right? Like, if anybody's bar is over 100, then they go next. And I give prioritization to the good guys. So if there's a good guy and a bad guy that are both over 100 in that particular instance, the good guy goes first and then the bad guy will go immediately after that. Yeah, the good guys get hosed, mostly because a guy came all the way down here and there's no cover. Oh, wait, is there? There's a piece of cover, I think, here. You just can't see it. Huh. Anyway, so when you take an action, you don't necessarily reset to 0 for your initiative bar. Overwatch actions and, like, suppression actions, those purely defensive actions, I'm going to put, they'll reset you to 0. So you'll need to fill your bar all the way up to 100 before you can do anything. If you do any other kind of action, like if you double move, it currently resets you to 50. If you move and shoot, it's resetting you to 30. That kind of thing. That way, if you take offensive actions, if you move your guys and you shoot, or if you move your guys, throw grenades or whatever, if you're actively playing the game rather than reactively playing the game, just parking somewhere and going on Overwatch, your guys will go more frequently, and that will give you an advantage. And I think that's enough to fight the, you know, Overwatch is the best way to play the game bug. We'll see how that turns out. Every now and then, and it's funny, the first time I recorded this, I didn't get a single error. If you'll see right here, I've got some debug text come up, like this place, the bottom value, that's his protection value of 40. So if I go here, its cover up is 40 because that was the defensive value of that spot. But this top bit right here, where there's nothing there, that'll throw out the most recent error code that the enemy has thrown out. And that's like a real error, like, okay, I went to go shoot a guy, but when I got here, there's nothing to shoot, so that's a problem. And they just end their turn, which is good. My old AI used to just stop, and like everybody would just stand around, but like the game wouldn't advance at all. So this new debug handling system makes the game a lot easier to handle. So there's still a couple of like flat out errors in the AI code. I'm still working on it. It'll get better. I've got most of them squashed. And there's a couple of errors related to cover and flanking, where sometimes guys will move and be like, why'd you move there? That's not a flank shot. Or you moved there, like they'll move here and they'll shoot at a guy here without like stepping out. Like if you move here and you shoot at a guy here, then you should have to step here so you have line of sight. And they don't do that. And I don't really have figured out what's up with that exactly. I'm still dealing with it. I don't know. Like I said, I think a lot of that is just growing pains, me moving over to Game Maker Studio 2. But for a week and a half's worth of work, I think I've got a pretty good handle on things, and things are moving well. That's about it. Game Maker Studio 2 port, the general idea of this AI arena and what it's doing. And I'm probably just going to build the real game off of this, right? Like, I'm probably just going to put a menu that puts this mode of gameplay as one of the options in the menu, and then just playing the game regularly is the other option for the menu. That way I don't need to rebuild any of this stuff when I build the, quote, real game. Probably just going to put it all in the same thing. Anyway, AI arena, I'm just testing my AI out, making sure everything's working fine. And like I said, for the most part, it's working really well. I'm really glad with where things are going. It's just, this is my first little project or progress report. It's not very fancy yet, I'm getting there. Doing support actions next week, Overwatch, suppression, that kind of stuff. Maybe even grenades next week too, depending on how things go. These big purple guys, they don't use cover. In fact, if they go over a green block, like rather than jumping over it, they just smash it down. And that does destroy the cover and removes its protection value entirely. I'm pretty cool with that. I want these guys, when they explode, to just like blow up in a small radius, which will probably either destroy or damage cover. But I want their little torso and their head to like fall to the ground. And then I want that to be half cover. So you can blow this guy up and then go, run up behind him and use him as cover. I think that's a cool idea. Talked about the initiative system, talked about how I'm dealing with, and you can see it right there. There used to be a window here, but he just Kool-Aid manned through the wall. I think that's a cool idea. I'm probably going to have more bad guys like that when the game's over. Oh gosh, one more thing to talk about. My damage system is currently, every weapon has a damage value. And then when you hit somebody, they do between 50 and 150% damage. And then that's modified by, like, every enemy has a resistance value. Most of the resistance values are 1, which means they don't have any resistance or weakness to whatever you shot them with. But some things do. Like, these guys are really sturdy. They've got, like, if you shoot them with a laser, they only take, like, 80% damage from it. You shoot them from plasma, it's like 70%. And some enemies are weak. The weird eyeball guys you might have seen they take extra damage from lasers because, they're big eyeballs, so they're sensitive to light. I don't know. It made sense in my head at the time. But then on top of it, everything's got an armor value. So you're doing like 100 points of damage, and then, okay, well, you're only taking 70% of that. So you're doing 70 points of damage, and then, okay, well, you got an armor value of 15, so you're actually only taking 55 points of damage. That's a cool system. And I like systems that are like that. Like, when it comes to like how damage systems work, I am biased towards systems that are more complicated like that. However, it's a little too complicated. If this is a game where, you got like 12 seconds to make up your mind of what you're going to do with a guy, then it's probably better if I switch to a more simplistic system. I'm probably still going to keep resistances, but it's just going to be a flat, like, and I don't know, either 25 or 50%. Like, okay, this guy's resistant to lasers, period. He takes 50% damage from them, period. Done. And then keep armor, whatever. I don't know. I think XCOM went a little too simplistic when they rebooted. Like everything does like 5 to 7 damage and that's it. I'd like bigger and cooler numbers than that, but whereas things like our damage range goes from like 20 to 120 right now. That's way too big and way too complicated. I think if in the end things are doing like, 15 to 20 damage or 10 to 20 damage overall, that's probably a much easier way to do things. And so all these numbers, they're all still works in progress, and I'm still trying to get to the bottom of them. We'll see what happens. That's about it. We've only gotten one real error so far through all these. That's doing pretty good. Let's see. I described the initiative system. I had talked about everything else. We're about done then. Like I said, this is my first progress report. I don't even know who's going to see this. Oh my god, I'm so terrible at YouTube. I should have turned my phone off. I don't know who's even going to see this long term. I know, I've got a bunch of developer friends who are interested in the project, and I've got people who are interested in working on the project. They're all probably going to see this. Long term, I've talked to a couple people about maybe making all of this publicly available as like a weird, funky, like, I don't know. People need to see this kind of stuff, right? Like, oh, they just see like, oh, there's this game and it's got all the cool pixel art and everything's great. They don't see like, okay, well, this is how the game started and it was ugly and stupid. And that's important, right? So this is like a weird pre-mortem, post-mortem. Like when the game comes out, I'd be like, okay, here's my like making of documentary, which I guess that's probably the closest thing to it. Here's the first video of my making of documentary. And I'm not sure if it'll ever be public, but at the very least, the people who are involved in it will be able to see, where things came from and what I'm working on, time to time. Anyway, whoever's watching this, thanks for watching, everybody. I'll see you next time.